Welcome to the Kickstart Your Edge Play to Win Leadership Podcast,
where we've flipped the script with our groundbreaking modus operandi to bring you real, relevant, and relatable tactics and techniques to master your own play to win mindset.
Talk about a superpower. It's time to iron your cape.
What we know for sure is what got you here won't get you there.
You can't see the spinach in your own teeth.
And finally, hang on, because this one is really deep. Once you realize that you are the traffic, everything makes complete and unadulterated sense.
Welcome to the Edge, where playing not to lose is not an option. Hey, Karen.
Yes, Jen.
What time is it when an elephant sits on a fence? Time to buy a new fence. Sorry, I had to figure out a segue into the elephants, but that's it.
You know what's interesting though, Jen? Elephants have kind of been coming up a little bit for us in the past couple months. So much so that we sent elephants to a couple people this year as kind of like Christmas things.
I know. Yeah. That is interesting. Well, they're definitely coming up on this podcast, this episode, right? So we're going to talk about the elephant in the room. One of our favorite things, I think it's fair to say, is dealing with elephants in the room.
I never really realized how much I loved elephants until we really started calling them out.
Yeah, exactly. It's where real work, real insight, real reflection, and real opportunity lie, is being able to really just talk about things that people initially think they don't want to talk about. But working with teams, this is the true game changer. And our favorite question is, what are we not talking about that we should be talking about?
Because that right there is where the gold is. Because people can talk about the trivial matters. All right, so like results, but results are not trivial, but you know what I mean. Everybody can talk about numbers all day long, but what is it that's going to get you to those numbers? And imagine, just imagine being able to deal with the elephant in the room, move the elephant out of the way, and what the results could be versus dealing with having to climb over the elephant day after day after day.
Yep, because when there's an undiscussed elephant in a room, it really doesn't leave a lot of space for honesty, vulnerability, trust, true healthy conflict, resolution. People could be walking on eggshells. They could be walking around with misinformation. What are you giggling about?
I'm giggling because we're putting eggshells and elephants in the same thing.
I know. But it is kind of interesting when you think of the mental space elephants can take up. It's quite large. That was kind of a joke. Anyway, so Kier, talk to us a little bit about different types of elephants as we were thinking about this episode.
So I think that what's important is to really understand what kind of elephants you're dealing with. And because we can all day long say, okay, great, what are we not talking about? But we need to figure out the different kind of elephants that there are. So there's an action elephant. And the action elephant sometimes really is the easiest elephant to work through, is because people need to take action, but nobody's doing anything. So this is a quick fix elephant, I think, but it's still an elephant if people think other people are doing something and nothing's getting done. One thing that when we were doing some initial work to discuss this podcast, I found something about the elephant and the ant issue, and I had never heard that before. But what this is about is that small problems are actually perceived as larger than they are because why, Jen? Rumors and lack of information. I think this one is huge because so often leaders aren't transparent enough with some of the people that they're working with. And then what happens, they make shit up all day long and people make those elephants, they make a ton of elephants that really aren't even there.
You know, I want to hop in here for 1/2 second. And just to give another example of what came to mind when I thought about elephant and ants. It's like, you know how you maybe you get annoyed about something with somebody else, right? So somebody annoys you, they do something or they don't do something or whatever, and it's a small thing, but then all of a sudden you start to collect evidence that they keep doing it. And then that problem gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because we in our mind have MSU'd something, we make shit up, right? We MSU'd something and then we start to collect evidence to prove we're right. That's taking an ant and turning it into an elephant. I just wanted to give another perspective on that because it's kind of interesting because then the thing gets super huge when it could have been dealt with right away and the ant could have stayed an ant.
Very true.
Yeah, sorry, please continue.
And then the last thing is the 6-ton elephant. And I think that a lot of times people think about this, or huge, huge management issues or big challenges. But I think that the 6-ton elephant is really truly about what we initially talked about, Jen, was that we're not really talking about what it is we need to talk about. Now, this is, of course, independent of legal issues, ethical issues, all those kind of things that occur. But these are the problems that we can solve with the teams and not pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah, I'm going to share a story that I think was one of my favorite moments, I'll say, of working with the team. It was a bit ago, but we were having a team meeting, and in the middle of the meeting, the vice president got up and left the meeting. Didn't really explain anything. It was his meeting, by the way. Like he called the meeting. We're all there because of him. It's his team. He got up and left the meeting, and the energy in the room started to change. Some people crossed their arms. Some people wrestled around in their seat. Some people were looking at the door. Some people looked at each other, right? So we asked the question of what just happened? And so it took a little bit. Now we had great trust with this team. We worked with them. We've been through other things together. So finally we said, you guys, what's going on? Everything just changed. And I said, what just happened when he left the room? And people were willing to say what their interpretations were, right? He doesn't care. He is too busy. He gives lip service. He, whatever. And so it's interesting because Karen said, I'll be right back. And I'm like, oh God. So she goes down the hall and she says, he's in an office with somebody else. And she said, can I talk to you for a second? Because you left the way that you did, you've just become the elephant in the room. He was a very open leader, came back into the room, and we said, let's just talk about what happened. And it turned out the leader shared he has terrible boundaries. He says yes to everything. He doesn't want to let anybody down. And in the long run, he lets a lot of people down. And so it was great for the team to hear why his instincts were to do what he did. I said that weird, but what were his instincts around it? He also got to hear firsthand from the team on the effect that it had on the team. There was more understanding, and then he then made commitments to the team about what he was going to do. And Karen, as we talked about earlier, that's when we had to really follow up to make sure it didn't become an action elephant where his words and his actions weren't in line.
That was a great thing for that team to actually happen, although it was uncomfortable. Especially, it was very uncomfortable for him, but it was uncomfortable for them too, because we created the space that they could be vulnerable and have some real conversations. And the team was pissed that he left. But when he got back and they were able to have those open, honest, transparent conversations, the dynamics really changed and people got a better understanding of where he was coming from because he kind of put himself out there.
Yeah, he was great with that, right? He just said, I have a hard time saying no. I want to people please. And it's not only this meeting, but here's how it affects the rest of the team, right? So the beautiful thing was by sharing the vulnerability, allowed for some accountability to come to the future. That was just a great moment in time that if Karen and I didn't address it with the team and we went on to whatever it is that we were talking about, we would have done a disservice to the beautiful moment that was provided to us, because what are we not talking about that we need to be talking about? That's where real things start to change. Thanks for listening to the Kickstart Your Edge Play to Win Leadership Podcast.
Craving more? Of course you are.
Check out our website at kickstartyouredge.com,
where we fire you up, fan the flames of your competitive edge culture, and ignite your tenacious pursuit of an all-out play-to-win mindset.